But, of course, it's not the sort of thing you're going to hear at the top of the hour on the Murdoch News at 6 or 7 when we go off air. But the fact is, it's out there. The stuff's all out there. And all you need to do is get on a computer and you can chase it down for yourself, folks, which is what this show's all about.
Well, we can also help you out by putting some links from our show page on thisweek.org.uk. On to the Dunblane murders, Martin. This was 20 years ago up in Scotland. One of the main things that fascinated me about looking into this was that there was a very accusation from one of the top Freemasons in Scotland that the guy was a paedophile, and also that he'd received some sort of Masonic protection. That there was actually people in the police who were protecting him, and although that the official advice was that he should have his guns taken away because he was unstable, and he was also possibly procuring pictures of young boys as part of a paedophile ring, that he should be allowed to keep his gun.
Well, I understand that George Robertson, the former head of NATO, was in the same Freemasons lodge with this fellow, and had signed the firearms certificate, the character reference, which allowed him to get a shotgun, which is then, of course, he then used to kill all of those children and their teacher.
Well, there's a journalist called Marcello Mega who wrote an article about this in December 2003, and he said a top Scottish Freemason, former Grand Master Lord Burton, said that Lord Cullen's inquiry into the Dunblane massacre was an enormous cover-up, that these high-profile legal figures belonged to a secretive super-Masonic group called the Speculative Society. Anyway, it certainly doesn't look as if the real people who were responsible for this, because he certainly wasn't just acting on his own, he had some form of establishment protection, will ever be brought to book.
Well, the suspicion has to be, the copper's hunch, because obviously I haven't carried out an investigation of this, is that NATO intelligence services, don't forget Robertson ends up as the head of NATO, and it might be very handy for certain people, for the head of NATO to be compromised by having paedophile connections. And I think that's the real iceberg underlying all of this VI paedophilia. The intelligence services, NATO intelligence services, the ones we've been accusing of fomenting terrorism in earlier parts of this show, have also used paedophilia as a means of blackmail. So what you do, what the suggestion is that this fellow was running. He had a boat on the Loch Lomond. He was taking senior politicians there to have sex with underage boys, all of which was being filmed by the CIA. And of course, that then means that those politicians will do as they're told when they become, for example, head of NATO.
And also, of course, if any of these top politicians are closely associated with a known paedophile, that means they're easier to blackmail.
Well, indeed, and that's the point. Is this isn't just random. It's not just that psychopaths at the top of the social hierarchy like having sex with underage boys and girls. It's also a strategy to dirty them all up and make sure they do as they're told. And that's what was behind the Dutroux affair in Belgium. And I think that that's what we'll find is at the bottom of the VI paedophilia scandals in this country.
OK, don't think we'll have time for John Lennon, I'm afraid. But before we go, the £200 million that Winston Churchill managed to procure for the atom bomb at the end of the Second World War. I spoke to the author of Churchill's Bomb on our dialect show, dialectradio.co.uk, earlier this week. That's Graham Farmelow, who wrote the book Churchill's Bomb, about this mystery money that appeared for Churchill to make the bomb with, even though the money didn't come through Parliament. This will be a revelation for many people that the British atomic bomb, which emerged in the early 50s, was developed with money from outside somehow. They went round Parliament.
Well, it was 100 million by the time Churchill... just over 100 million by the time he became Prime Minister, which was October 51. So, please don't quote me, but it would. There will be the exact figure somewhere, but my rough guess would be something like 200 million. It would be billions of pounds.